Boy, don't I like to do that. All right, welcome to our meeting. It's Tuesday, August 1st, 2023 at 6 p.m. Actually, it's really 10 after 6. This meeting will be conducted in person in the Sanford City Council chambers and via remote video and teleconference pursuant to 1 MRSA Section 403B2D and Section 6 of the Sanford City Council Rules of Procedure as amended and adopted June 6, 2023. Members of the public may join the meeting by phone by dialing 1-929-205-6099 using meeting ID 884-7056-6212 and via password 123304 or via computer at the link provided. Members of the public may also submit comments via the City of Sanford website at www.sanfordmaine.org under government/city council/contact the council. Would you all please join me for a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me for a moment of silence. And now for roll call. Deputy Mayor Herlihy.
Present.
Councilor Stackpole.
Present.
Council Hanselman.
Present.
Council Martell.
Present.
Council Trench-Montagne.
Present.
Council Hitchcock.
Present.
And I'm Mayor Brink. Also present as the City Manager Steve Buck, and filling in for Executive Assistant Larissa Ricketts is our City Clerk Sue Cody. And thank you, Sue, for joining us and helping out.
I want you to say, come on down after that.
Come on.
The way you like the inflection in your voice.
We try to make these meetings entertaining because they can be boring. All right, so let's see. The next thing is the minutes, and before we accept the minutes, there are quite a few corrections that need to take place on them. So I'll go through the corrections, and then if we could have a motion to accept them with the amended corrections. On page 2, it says deputy, and it should say Councilor Trench-Montagne, because I didn't know you were a deputy. So it's a counselor? Okay, just making sure. And then there are a few spelling corrections on page 3. We have Thibodeau, the spelling, Sue has the correct spelling, and Emery was spelled incorrectly. And then down at the bottom, resident needs to be corrected on the bottom of page 3. And I'll be handing this all over to Sue, so she will have this. And then on page 4, the sentence was put together a little off, and it's on the first paragraph, and it says one small way is, and it said to July 29th. That was in the wrong place, so it should say one small way is to doing a community cleanup. Main access points is conducted by July 28th. So that's the correction. Then on page 5, the number of that, they have 22-505. It should be 23-282-01. So that's on page 5. Then let's keep going. And then on page 12, at the top, it should say he spoke to the attorney of personal representative. So the attorney of is missing. And then down at the next paragraph, it says implanting, and it should say, although I do think it's humorous the way it's worded, it should say implementation should be the word there. And I believe that's it. So Sue, I'll pass this on to you. And thanks, Sue is the one who caught most all of that. She's fantastic, so thank you very much for doing that. All right, and so do I have a motion to accept the minutes with the corrections? Ann?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
And Jonathan?
Second.
Second, and all those in favor? Oh, I can't vote because I wasn't here, so, even though I did make a lot of corrections. Just couldn't be left out.
I'm glad to know you watched us.
And if you happen to notice that I only got to watch last meeting until 7 o'clock because I don't have Wi-Fi, so I had to sit in the parking lot at the library, and they shut everything down there. So I had to shut down. But I did enjoy hearing all the public. It was a pretty neat meeting. All right, let's move on to the mayor's report and any subcommittees. And so I'm going to, under the mayor's report, I'm going to read a letter. And this letter is from Eric Small, and it's a fantastic letter addressed to Steve Buck, and this is July 27th, 2023. On July 18th, 2023, members of the public attended a city council meeting in which they expressed concerns about the disruption and improper disposal of syringes in public areas, use of drug use, trespassing, and unsightly rubbish piles in and around their businesses at 61 Washington Street. Their voices were powerful, and it was clear to me and others in the audience that the city council wanted a quick response. This is the really neat part. Somehow people can read people's minds here. Unbeknownst to the public and the city council at the time, an organized effort to remedy this situation through a collective initiative between the Sanford Police Department, the Sanford Department of Public Works, and the Sanford Housing Authority was already planned for the following day. That is fantastic. So that's why we had to share this letter. On July 19, 2023, at 8 a.m., members of all three organizations met on Heritage Crossing. After a short leadership briefing, the project was quickly underway. All rubbish was picked up by hand and shrubbery was cut back, allowing a clear view of the area. 3 truckloads of rubbish were taken to the transfer station for disposal, and barriers were placed at the entrance of the parking lot to limit traffic. Since the cleanup, police have increased patrols in the area to ensure continuing compliance with state law and city ordinances. Many of the tasks assigned to the group that day were outside their routine duties. I'm just amazed that they were willing to do all this. And it was my experience that everyone involved was there to improve the area for local business owners and our citizens. It felt like a Sanford Strong environment. I would like, and this is from Eric, he would like to commend Peter Smith, Scott, and I might get his last name wrong, Robitelli, Raymond Davis, Thomas Blanchett, Tom Gilman, Culvert Bond, Wade Dorr, John Campbell from the Department of Public Works, Officer Colleen Adams of the Sanford Police Department, and Diane Small from the Sanford Housing Authority for their work that day, which went above and beyond my expectations. City employees and partnering agencies came together is key to our overall success. Respectfully submitted, Eric Small. So I think that was fantastic. I'd like to congratulate those people who were involved in that. It really is amazing what the organizations within Sanford are willing to do when they come together. So it was fantastic. I went over and I saw the place over there. It looked fantastic. Hopefully it will stay that way, and I really appreciate the police doing a regular patrol of that area, because I know we would like businesses to keep growing in that area. So thank you. I'm going to now turn it over to Steve, and I think you've got quite a bit of information to share today, and it's going to be in different parts. And I'd also like to share that we're going to be doing some regular reports on our unhoused population so that we can keep everybody informed that we are, as a whole organization, working to help solve some of these problems. So, Steve, thank you.
Yes. So as indicated, I'm going to be doing a biweekly report at each city council on homelessness and the activities associated around that. So for tonight, I have updates on the homeless and also the homeless task force, which met, again, this past Monday. So basically, we still continue to have two categories of unhoused populations. We have the asylum seekers, and we have the unhoused residents within Sanford. And when I say unhoused residents, I'm referring to the fact that the overwhelming majority of the people that we deal with that are homeless in our community are Sanford Springvale residents. So again, we have those two categories of homelessness within the city. I'll report out on the asylum seekers first. Again, just a brief update. Between May 1st of this year and July 20th, which was the closure date of the emergency shelter, a total of 35 families comprising over 150 individuals were provided emergency housing, food, health care, and other support services as asylum seekers. General assistance expenditures in June were $247,000 towards that effort in that month alone. The current status is the 35 families assisted, comprising approximately 150 people. 26 families have been located into permanent housing, which are apartments. 7 families are currently being housed temporarily while permanent housing is matched. These families all have housing navigators assigned to them, and 24 of the 35 families are now housed in Sanford and Springvale. So there's been some minor placements outside of Sanford, Springvale, but the majority of those asylum-seeking families have been placed in Sanford, Springvale apartments.
Excuse me, Steve, is there any way we can share what you're reading? 'Cause I know it was shared in the email. Thank you.
We got it.
All right. There continues to be weekly coordination meetings around this population, which is now focused on moving assistance for the remaining families, coordination of public transportation at their new locations. I can't say enough positive about York County Community Transportation working with the individuals to utilize the pre-existing public transportation system to meet their needs. School enrollment as well as bus coordination for the ensuing school year has been underway. Healthcare and immunizations for minors, that has been done. The immunization clinics are done and complete. It was paid for under main care. And the adults are now still pending at the Nassau federally qualified healthcare facility. So the adults don't qualify under main care, but they can be provided services at Nassau to be reimbursed under the federally qualified healthcare facility. Dental and vision is also pending. There's a lot of issues around obtaining both dental and eye care. Although I did note that the Lions Club has provided eye assessments and such under that, and now they're pending to get them the prescription glasses as necessary. The group of volunteers and resource coordination around housing for the asylum-seeking population remains in place. The group will now go bi-weekly as opposed to weekly. And the group is being asked their interest in to use their interest and capacities and capabilities around the resident unhoused population that is still here, and their needs have not yet been met. All right. So let me shift now to the resident unhoused population. So the city's homeless task force was activated to again increase the efforts around addressing our resident unhoused population. Those are people originating here in Sanford Springvale or the close proximity within the region who have become or have been unhoused for an extended period for various reasons. And we have more and more that have been unhoused for an extended period. Sanford Police Department Mental Health Unit tracks the number of contacts, interviews the contacts, and maintains a database of the unhoused and associated reason for the individuals being housed. So I want to take my hat off to the Mental Health Unit. That is exceptional work. I don't know of anyone else that actually has a database that stems from the individual one-on-one contact, getting to know the individuals, what their needs are, and then being able to bring that information back has been so helpful, as you'll see later disclosed here. Due to the rapid increase in the number of unhoused in the last year, as well as the increased presence of financially unhoused, mental health, and most dramatically substance abuse disorder, or SUD, the task force was activated to further address homelessness. So I have a graphic here that's been widely used in this assessment that you see here. This is information. The blue bars are from 2019. The burnt orange is 2020. The light gray is 2021 data. The yellow is 2022, and the red is 2023. So if you look at this first category, these first bars, that's the number of homeless that are tracked. So for an example, in 2019, we had 8 that were being tracked in our system. It went to 14, to 16, 2022 to 35. When we printed this data, it was 98. We're now tracking 108. Mental health, you can see the bars here that associate for each of those years, 19 through 2023. You can see the ramp there and the predominance of mental health. You can see disability has remained relatively stagnant up until this year. You've got a large jump in the population, but proportionally it has stayed relatively the same. Financial, there is a big jump in the financial category in 2023. So for the first time, we're seeing many more people that have been evicted because landlords are doing renovations, or they have the rental assistance has ended under COVID, so they're no longer able to pay their rent. They're becoming unhoused just because of financial pieces, a big piece of that this year. The next category is the most disturbing. You can see the next category is the substance use disorder. You can see that in 2019, we were tracking 7 homeless people that were associated with that. We're now tracking 64. A significant increase, especially those 27 last year and now 64. We had 1 veteran that showed in our system in 2022, and we now have 2 veterans in 2023. The last category, we see on a fairly consistent basis the comorbidity of mental health and substance use combined. You can see the tracking there for that category. And I'll get to that data, come back to that data set. So the task force met this past Monday. It was comprised of our Sanford mayor and 1 city councilor. We had the police mental health unit, 2 officers and 2 social workers that are assigned to that unit. We had the director of the Sanford Housing Authority. From York County Community Action, we had the executive director as well as a director of economic opportunity. Those individuals in the York County Community Action Corporation have been by the city's side through the asylum seekers, and they are staying in there with resources, staffing, and all hands on deck as far as addressing our homeless population that's still out there. Again, I just cannot commend them strongly enough for their efforts. We had our police chief, our deputy chief, and 2 majors were at the meeting, as well as myself, and I left Jordan Wilson off the list. She was there as well, our communications coordinator. The purpose of the meeting was to review both long-term and short-term services to address homelessness, as well as to solidify the roles and partnering that already occurs across the city's departments and our partnering entities of the Sanford Housing Authority, York County Community Action, and the service providers within our region, as well as the state. A list of the long-term elements needing to be addressed are comprehensively address the capacity issues and the reoccurrence of homelessness are attached to this report. I may not have attached that. I think there's about 3 attachments that I didn't put in here today, so I'll correct that and resend. The task force exchanged information focused on the currently unhoused population. It was noted that the MHU, you heard me say that, the mental health unit, MHU, had 142 unique contacts. As of Monday, 105 actively engaged that they're tracking and working with. 7 unhoused individuals were addressed last week and came off that list. So it's an ever-changing list. Recognition of the remaining unhoused could fall into 4 major groupings of individuals as such. The first category are people that are unhoused due to financial or other circumstances, not mental health or SUD. That was a relatively short list. Those are need for housing assistance and funding and/or gap funds above their current financial needs. We left that, well, I'll hold that. The second category is people needing support or case management up front to become successful in becoming housed. So they need case management in the short term, but not in the long term. The third category, we start to get into deeper here, people with severe mental health and substance use disorder, or one or the other, that will require treatment and then case management short term to be successfully housed. So that case management will have to stay with them throughout that housing period. And then the fourth category is those people with mental health and substance use disorder that have become so dominant they will require long-term case management while being housed. Categories 3 and 4 are the longest part of the list. So extensive dialogue around this grouping of people and the associated services utilized and or needed. The success of deficiencies of services and capacities were then summarized into the following immediate and or short-term actions. So I apologize for leaving the long-term out. I'll get that back to you. But the short-term actions, these are the action items that we left the meeting with, as well as the assignment. So groups 1 and 2 under case management and housing navigators to apartments, YCCAC will assign housing navigators, and the Sanford Housing Authority will review them for vouchers as well as priorities on those vouchers. So those two categories of people will reasonably be resolved in partnership with our partnering entities. They also are going to engage the same housing search and housing placement services that were used for the asylum seekers. That system is still in place and will be utilized for our resident unhoused as well. The second recognition was maximization of the partnerships, which are key to addressing the number and type of homelessness. Again, YCCAC to explore placing a current housing navigator at the Sanford PD to work beside the mental health unit staff to improve coordination. So they do have housing navigators there now. They're going to glean through that to see if there's a right fit that's willing to go in and be housed at our MHU unit in the police department so they can work side by side as far as services are concerned. We then discussed the use of AmeriCorps funded position. There's a regional application going in, and we would use that individual to be again housed within the police department at the mental health unit. It is a grant for 3 years, and these people come trained specifically in housing placement. We also discussed YCCAC staff person to assist with data tracking and management of the unhoused population, again, not differently from the asylum seekers, but we find the maintenance of the database, the ability to assess that, divide it out, and get it into the appropriate categories and assignments to be extremely useful. And then we have a housing navigation program, again, no different from what we use for the asylum seekers to be dedicated in this area. We then talked about the community paramedicine program. All of this was under development before we came into the homeless task force meetings, so the design and the emphasis of that would be shifted to go in coordination with what we're talking about here with the unhoused. We currently have a grant into the state of Maine, which we've been assured we will be acquiring. It's a $100,000 grant towards a paramedicine staffer, a new person to be hired. There's a second $10,000 grant that's also going into the state. I don't remember that category, but that's a shoe-in as well. So there's still a need of approximately $30,000. We're going to approach, we have that meeting set up already, Southern Maine Healthcare for a community grant, because the paramedicine program, the design of that, a major emphasis of that is to keep individuals out of the emergency department from a recidivism piece about not having to have readmissions, for which the hospital does not get reimbursed for. I've seen community grants for that particular effort before. So we're going to be asking basically Maine Health for that same consideration under this. We also have an AFG grant for the vehicle that's been filed. That was already in the works, and we already have a SAFER grant for additional 4 positions for staffing that we're carrying over for at least the 3rd time. At this time, we have a letter from Senator Susan Collins in support of that, as well as the grant has been modified based upon what was learned from the last 3 applications. If awarded the SAFER grant, I would ask the City Council to assign 2 of those 4 to the full-time staffing that would complete the 13 per shift, and then the other 2 to go into the paramedicine program for that 3-year period whereby which those staffing positions are paid for at 100% for 3 years with no clawback. We would give the council the time to assess the value of the community paramedicine program by those 3 positions being paid for wholly, and then to reassess as to whether that's a good investment to keep and budget from general funds. The next was to establish a new group of volunteers around the resident unhoused. So the group of volunteers that have circled around the asylum seekers, they're being asked to consider being part of the same efforts around our still unhoused individuals. We have a meeting under subsection E. We have a meeting already set up for August 15th. That will be with the state of Maine, Governor's Office of Innovation and Maine State Housing at a minimum. I believe DHHS will be in there as well. We'll be talking to them about the Housing First model. There are federal funds that are going to become available for that, as well as state monies. That would look at building a minimum of 44 beds here of transitional housing, for which there'll be 24/7 case management associated with that. That would get us into categories 3 and 4. Shelter bed capacity. York County Shelter Program was invited to the meeting. They were unable to attend. We've had that discussion at the state level again, but the August 15th meeting will refocus on that as to what can be done for pre-existing facilities at the York County Shelter Program location in Alfred, predominantly Dennis Hall, and or other facilities that are present there that could be rehabilitated to increase the overall bed capacity. There are just 45 bed assignments for all of York County. It is grossly insufficient. Dennis Hall would more than double that capacity with that ongoing effort. And then a major discussion around gap funding for rental assistance. Now that we're post-COVID, that has dried up. Discouragement is that we, in utilizing general assistance to fund rental assistance for asylum seekers, there are separate federal and state funds already assigned to bridge the gap in that, but we do not have that same type of assignment for us, available for us here in York County as far as gap rental assistance for non-asylum seekers. So this category E goes to the larger conversation. We've gleaned through the nearly $50 million in 2 categories and looked at the amount of funds that were assigned in Cumberland County predominantly and or Androscoggin County with very little assignment of resources into York County. So all of this work is now in preparation for asking for greater consideration for funding to come in here to York County to increase our capacity, because of the predominance of issues that we deal with, everything the mental health unit learned to do and deal with a smaller population. Those pre-existing strategies that were developed are being outstripped now from a capacity perspective. There's no place to place individuals. Even though strategies are still prevalent and predominant, there's no capacities to place people in various levels of services. The next piece was landlord education. This gets back to the current level of evictions that we're seeing that is driving the financial piece, the increase there. Sanford Housing Authority and YCAP have outreach educational programming that seeks to lessen evictions, so they have pledged to assign those more prevalently to work with landlords to lessen that impact as much as possible. And then the last item, the next item is we talked about reestablishing the resource hub. So in 2019, when the Heritage Drive parking lot had become overrun with homeless encampment, we partnered with York County Community Action, the shelter program, and others, and stood up a resource hub directly across the street on High Street. That was very successful. Once the trust level was established and the police department could influence them to go over and obtain services, that worked well at that point in time. We're at a different point in time now. There are many more people that are viewed as being more difficult to resolve. So rather than try to stand up that exact same thing again, there's strong recognition within the group that the loss of the Peer Support Counseling Center that used to be on Washington Street has been detrimentally impactful within the community. We need to provide them further assistance. Polly Finlay from SMHC is the primary contact on that. We believe they may have space. They may have identified space. Their continued uncertainty of the funding. They have funding for this year. They're applying for the next year's funding. That is one of the difficulties that landlords have viewed in them as far as their funding level as being uncertain for a multi-year contract. That peer center was providing counseling, they're providing food services, they're providing basic needs and access to referrals, as well as sanitation and such under that. Those needs have not been met since that peer support counseling center has closed. So that's a primary objective, is to get that stood up sooner than later and let that be the resource hub. Next, working with Maine Department of Health and Human Services is the Independent Housing Supportive Program. There is an ongoing application. The Sanford Housing Authority is working with the Southern Maine Area Agency on Aging, as is YCAC, on applying for additional funding for elderly care assistance, so we can better address that category of the elderly that are now becoming unhoused, keeping them in their, looking for federal Title III resources to keep them in their living situation, in their homes, for as long as possible and not being displaced because of economic reasons and or the lack of grab bars and other facilities within their homes. The police department will be exploring a COPS grant, which is the Community-Oriented Policing, which is a federal grant, looking for additional staffing for within the mental health unit. There's a strong recognition in there that we were at 2 officers, 1 full-time employed social worker, and a second that comes to us half-time through Maine Options, that capacity has been outstripped, and one of those 2 officers just retired on Monday. So they're down to 1 officer, 1 social worker, and 1 half-time. So we'll be looking at a COPS grant application, as well as trying to do a better assessment on the state opioid assistance funding that will be awarded to the city. We have the tentative time frame as to when those additional funds are going to come in. We're going to try to communicate with our legal counsel on that to see if we can get a better assessment on that. There may be resources that we can pull from that in this fiscal year that have not been assigned if we know that that's coming in timely. So that will be examined as well. And then the last piece is the renewed examination of the homeless crisis protocol policy. That gets into the Attorney General's former ruling. We did a gleaming of Title 17A, subsection 18, and so we've done some work around the homeless crisis protocol to be more aggressive in certain areas that we might not have been otherwise absent that examination. So the next Homeless Task Force meeting is scheduled for August 14th. We will be inviting the Sanford Fire Chief in there as far as the community paramedicine program is concerned and its future outcomes, as well as the Assistant Superintendent of Schools to talk with us about his knowledge base of unhoused students as being a prime category that was not fully addressed, or not really addressed at all in the last task force meeting because we didn't have the numbers and the knowledge base. Long-term objectives primarily are capacity-based issues. They were also noted around the major areas. I said see attached. I apologize, I didn't put that in there. There's a significant number of categories in there. But again, we're meeting on August 15th with state officials where we'll start to drill down on those and not shyly ask for significant increases in funding to come here to York County to address these capacity issues. The last note that I had in here is that through the mental health unit of the police department, they're also working to implement a memorandum of understanding with Maine Behavioral Health and Southern Maine Healthcare for more direct access to behavioral health referrals into the center that's here in Sanford. I do note that, because I still sit on the finance board, they're working at providing additional staffing to the behavioral health beds that are in the Goodall campus facility, because even though those beds are available, they're not fully staffed. There's an extreme shortage of mental health providers within the network everywhere, so getting access to that has been difficult at best. We also have city staff that is a part of York County's future expansion of Layman's Way, which is also the training center as well. Assistant Chief Smith has been heavily involved in that. That is the expansion of Layman's Way, which is the substance use disorder treatment facility that's adjacent to the jail in Alfred. They're looking at more than doubling that capacity. That's what we developed on the short term. We meet again in 2 weeks, which is in good timing with the meeting with the state as far as the long-term pieces and capacities are considered.
It's hard to believe all that was done in a 2-hour period of time, which goes to prove when you get the correct people from all the different agencies in one location, it's like a brain trust, and you're able to feed off each other and come up with great, fantastic ideas. I'd also like to thank Chief Anderson for arranging the room for us. We've decided we need a little bigger room next time, especially if we're going to invite somebody from the fire department and also from the school department. And one of the reasons we also thought of the school department was sometimes the kiddos from parents don't understand why they lose their apartment, and it's because of the students' behavior that they're asked to leave. So we thought, it would be nice to include them, and so maybe some training could also come of that. Also, Colleen Adams was phenomenal in her breakdown of information. I agree with you, Steve, when you made the comment about the different categories. It made it so much easier, and we were allowed to see parts of the names that were in there because it's all confidential, and it made us realize these are human beings we are dealing with. These are real people, and we need to be very careful how we treat real people, that it's productive, whatever we put into place. And I think 100% of the people in that room were caring for this population. So I think that was just fantastic. And you mentioned the opioid funds, and I'm pretty sure DC Small is a part of, he's on that group. So
For the state funds.
For the
yes.
state funds. So if we could have a list of how we can spend that. I know we can't supplant things, but is there some way, you mentioned maybe bringing that into this. I think that's a fantastic idea, to use that funding. So does anyone have any other questions? Yes, Pete?
Yeah, I want to say thank you to Steve. A couple weeks ago when I was called to see this homeless, you saw my face. I was horrified. I know the hours you're putting in, it's not even double time, it's triple or quadruple time. And I just didn't want your name not to be put in that too, because I'm impressed. And personally, not as a counselor, as a citizen, I personally thank you, because I didn't sleep for 3 days when I found out how bad this was. So there you have it. I thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Any other comments? All right, Steve, I know you also have another part of a report you wanted
Yes, I have a manager's report to touch on several topics. The first was the cleanup of Heritage Drive. I won't talk any further on that, but I do want to recognize and thank Deputy Chief Small for writing the letter as quickly as he did, recognizing all of the departmental participation in that and everybody that participated in that cleanup and the importance for the city. So rather than repen that, I was going to attach it to my report. I didn't. I will get that reattached. So it will be a matter of the public record. So thank you, DC Small. The next point, again, part of the overall homeless in this picture is we had a meeting with the Main Access Points Hypodermic Apparatus Exchange Program today. That was a difficult meeting. I had to do a lot of research in and around that program. Larissa did an extremely good job of just gleaming through all of the timelines, the points of contacts and time frames that we had with Main Access Points. I also, as part of the research, I talked extensively both with the city manager in Bangor as well as Patty Hamlin. I forget her direct title, but she's more on the Health and Human Service side for the city of Bangor. We could finish each other's sentences as you wrap around this topic of syringe exchange, right? The same issues, different providers, right? So it gave me a point of perspective that it's not necessarily the provider of the syringe exchange program that we're dealing with here, but there's more global issues around the harm reduction program that I'm going to discuss here in a moment that I think truly needs legislative change. So I talked to the Bangor manager around that. That was a topic years ago with the Main Service Center Coalition. I found my notes from the LPC when the two various bills that were in there around needle exchange. And I do remember extensively that the only reason that program passed was it was a 1-to-1 exchange program. It's currently a 1-to-100. So you can come in with one needle and they'll give you a box of 100, send you on your way. You come back 2 days later, one needle, another box of 100, and they send you on your way. So the Lauren Gothier, who's the director with CDC that we dealt with today, said, well, that's the current rules and regulations that we work under. I said, well, great, then let's go about fixing that. So the state of Maine, through the Maine Center of Disease Control and Infectious Disease Prevention Programs, they license the syringe and or needle exchange programs that are implemented across the state. Maine Access Points was licensed by the state to operate a program in Sanford, first at the intersection of Heritage Drive and Weaver Drive. They were licensed on March 9th of 2020, and later they obtained a second site, the St. George's Episcopal Church at 3 Emerson Street. That was licensed by the state on October 31st, 2022. The city does not license this activity or the locations. The state does. Okay? Although I will note that the Heritage Drive and Weaver was a cooperative discussion. Initially, the state had licensed MAP to be at the intersection of Church Street and Washington. The city pushed back on that when they got knowledge of it and asked the state then, how do you permit a location without any discussion with the city? So that discussion ensued, and then the location was changed to where it was currently operating. So the program is set forth under state law, Title 22, Chapter 252-A, which is called the Hypodermic Apparatus Exchange Program, and it's governed by the rulemaking pursuant to Chapter 252. Since the inception of the program in Sanford, concerns have been raised around the efficacy of the harm reduction program, warranting a balanced evaluation of the impacts to public health and safety. The program, which is the harm reduction, seeks to prevent bloodborne pathogen diseases such as HIV and hepatitis, yet a number of improperly discarded needles has created another level of public health crisis, which is the contamination of public property and public areas. City administration, we met with MAP today, as well as the CDC, so that's Lauren Gothier, to address the public health and safety impacts of the syringe exchange program and the improperly discarded volume of needles within Sanford. This is not unique to Sanford. The meeting resulted in the following immediate action items. First, well, before I get into all the action items, I will say it was an extremely strong dialogue. There was an individual here that was working for Main Access Points at the last council meeting. That individual no longer works for that organization because of the statements and the reactions made. There was strong recognition in the meeting this morning that the ongoing dialogue and relationship as far as a coordinated response for referrals and other health issues had broken down between our mental health unit and Main Access Points because of the individual that they had here. So that recognition was given. They're going to bring back in longtime staff, administrators to re-energize the program only after we meet certain terms and conditions. So first point was that the main access points will not operate the exchange program until a new location is identified. So the only certainty that I put on the table today was that everything was open for dialogue, but the current needle exchange program operated as it was in that location was an absolute no. Other than that, everything was open for communication. So as far as a new location, Deputy Chief Small has taken the lead on this. He will work with MAP on a new mobile vending location in the short term, and that location will be subject to City Council review and approval. So we'll be bringing that to you. DC Small and as well as Lacey, our options clinician, will continue to work on a bricks and mortar location for long-term placement. Again, I'll bring that back for council review and discussion on that. They believe they have a location, but it has not yet been affirmed. So short-term, return of the mobile vending in a new and improved location, a to-be-approved location. Long-term is get it into a bricks and mortar. MAP claims they've been looking for 18 months for a brick and mortar location, but have not been able to locate that. So we will provide some assistance.
And Steve, I would like to make a comment about that. If it can be inside a facility of some kind, it's easier to counsel people to the next steps that they take. If it's outside, it's just too open and doesn't adhere to that type of intervention. So then you are just giving needles out. And I think part of the purpose of the needle exchange program was to also put some type of counseling in place when they're willing to take that next step.
Right. That is part of their mission. So one of our meetings with the mental health unit, there was an intern, I think it was an intern from UNE. Now this is a licensed physician studying in another category that had extensive knowledge in the needle exchange programs in other states in much, much larger cities. And her impression was, until you get them inside a brick and mortar building, they're just a disaster. Not her words, my interpretation. They've got to be inside to be run well. Center for Disease Control is going to send us information on potential implementation of sharps disposal containers. I requested that they glean results from Portland, Lewiston, Auburn, and Bangor that have implemented these containers, so I'd like to see what results that did or did not produce before the City Council considers that further. Main access points will partner with the city on the maintenance and funding applications for the implementation, and we will seek grant options if the council decides that that's something that we want to implement here in our city. Main Access Points has installed senior management team members to administer the program in Sanford, displacing the former operator. MAP will renew the working relationship with the Sanford Mental Health Unit, and MAP will actively participate in the Homeless Task Force as a partner. We talked about the continuum of care of everything that evolves around those people that are homeless for this particular reason, and that MAP needs to be a partner in that. We have a next meeting scheduled in 3 months, and that meeting is specifically to follow up on these action items, see what the results are and what amendments need to be done going forward. Any questions on that?
All set.
It was a much more productive meeting than what I originally anticipated, so. Finances. Our finance director will present at the August 15th meeting the last quarterly report, which is year-end closeout. I was looking at the finances today, and I wanted to bring forward the following observations. The expenses before transfers are booked are closing at $39,402 over for the year. We'll be able to negate that once we do the transfer. So the transfer I'm referring to is we put a 53rd payroll, we put a reserve forward 1/7 of that each year, so we'll be doing that payroll transfer, so that will negate that $39,000 overage for the overall expenditures for the budget. Even with that, we will not have the ability to utilize the $308,687 of unexpended funds from Public Works and Environmental Services. over the last 2, if not 3 years, the city council has allowed for the unexpended funds in there because of staff shortages to then be pulled out, saved, and put into the roads. But because of the overages that we're experiencing from other areas, that will not be an option for us this year. As far as impacts that the budget had to absorb, to get us to this point, we had $664,525 over expenditure in the general assistance program this year. And we had $241,891 in additional payroll costs driven by overtime and buyouts due to both staff shortages and a large number of retirements. Revenues, however, were closing well above target, and we're at a positive $1,452,447 above what was budgeted. Major performance areas above the budget were auto excise at $54,000 over, revenue sharing $427,000 over. COVID relief funds, we were not expecting that. We have $109,960 that came in for COVID relief funds. General assistance, we will see an increased reimbursement of $472,403, so that's the 70% coming back from the large expense. But without council actions, you can consider this going forward, but without council actions, I can't wipe out that expense on the expense side. Investments are $96,270 over what was budgeted. Very positive performance there. We're actually getting interest on our money now. It's kind of nice. Ambulance revenue overperformed by $107,483. Pay-as-you-throw performance, $22,865. I always use trash as an economic indicator, right? When the economy goes up, trash goes up. Ambulance does the same thing. Ambulance and trash are your economic indicators. Cable franchise fees, yes, $87,639 higher. We have 2 franchises now, and they're performing better, or at least one is. You can guess on that. Vacant building licensing was up $51,400, and license fees overall was up $102,834 over budget. So we did very well on the revenue side. I'll let Ronnie bring forward the last quarterly report and the closeout report on that, and then the city council can consider what to do with those closeout items. So, all right, just a precursor so you can be prepared and start to think about that. Let's see, a weird print off I've got here. Assessing and tax commitment. Our new city assessor, Ben Thompson, is working diligently towards this year's tax commitment. As in any new director, there are a number of deficiencies that have been identified that are being addressed prior to commitment. The deficiencies primarily center on the new Vision 8 tax software and the implementation of the personal property files, to include Better and Betty. The accounts have largely been managed manually. I didn't realize that. They were being managed manually and then entered into the system for the commitment. Information services, so Ben is working with our IS department to confirm that the accounts, as they're setting them up, will reconcile properly within the Vision 8 software package before they complete all of those individual implementations. Our treasurer and tax collector, Aaron, has also had to acquire a new printing and mailing company this year as the prior vendor had closed their business. The individual retired and did not sell the business, so we had to go out for a new firm. The tax information sheet will only be 1 page front and back this year. That stems from 2 things: feedback from the communication survey, what the people found useful in the 4-pager, well, 2 pages front and back last year. They really liked the tax reporting, tax reporting information on the front page, and they really liked the property tax programming explanation on the second page. Page 3 and 4 waft off. So since the price nearly quadrupled, we said, okay, 1 page, black and white. So that tax insert has been prepared. I get the latest information from Ben as far as the tax insert, as far as the updated information on the programs and the modifications for the property tax fairness credit in lieu of the single-year implementation of the property tax stabilization for senior citizens, as well as, so the people will not have to apply in the future. They'll do that via their income tax filing as opposed to filing for tax stabilization. And the tax fairness credit is now up to $2,000 after the payment of the property taxes to reimburse. There's also the current and ongoing property tax deferral program, where the state will issue a loan against a qualified property with interest to be repaid at time of sale. So if the senior citizen, once one passes or the other and they sell the property, they'll recoup it at that point in time, as well as homestead, veterans, tree growth, disability, and other exemptions. The last piece that I have here on this report is the Stanley Road parking lot. Trail access is temporarily closed, going out towards Indians Leap. Central Maine Power came in and requested to use that as part of their Section 185 rebuild of the power line corridor through Sanford into Lebanon. The upgrade is necessary as the transmission line cannot carry the capacity needed, so they're upgrading the substation as well as the transmission lines. They have installed a 45-foot-long portable what am I trying to say? A transmission station there, substation, that's taken up that parking lot, and they have 24-hour, 24/7 security there with lighting and such because of the value of everything that's been placed there, and there's ensuring the security of that. So the closure occurred on July 25th. Parks and Rec and Communications put notifications out to that, and it will be reopened no later than August 18th. So we apologize for the inconvenience for the temporary closure, but absent that, there would have been a number of outages as they were switching facilities over, and this prevents any of that from happening. Nomination papers for municipal officers are now available in the city clerk's office. There's 2 positions for city council members for 3 years. Incumbents Maura Herlihy and Jonathan Martell are up for election. There's 1 position for city council to fill the unexpired term ending 12/31 of 2024, which is currently incumbent Nathaniel Hitchcock. There are 2 positions for school committee members, both 3-year terms. Incumbents Paula T. Cody and Amy Turgeon-Sivany are up for re-election. 1 position for trustee of the Sanford Water District for a 3-year term, incumbent Roland Cody, and 2 positions for trustee of the Sanford Sewage District, both 3-year terms, incumbents Nathaniel Hitchcock and Keith Patterson. To qualify for municipal office, candidates must be registered voters with their principal place of residence in the city. They would need to obtain a minimum number of signatures of registered voters in the Sanford Springvale. For city council, they have to have 50 signatures of registered voters, and for the water or sewer district, they have to have 25 signatures of registered voters. The deadline to file nomination papers is Wednesday, September 6, 2023 at 5 p.m. 5:30 p.m. Oh, give them another 30 minutes, right?
As long as our door's open.
Run right in.
All right, and one last thing. So I was asked
Well,
to...
just one comment on the city council and on the school committee. The incumbents are running again, which I think is really fantastic because it'll give us stability. So I want to thank you guys, for those of you who are up again, for taking papers out. I appreciate it. Same way with the school committee. It's fantastic. So.
And I've been asked to speak on 8 York Street. That is a very problematic property. I know councilors have received some concerns about that. Ian Housey provided me the following updates. The city enforced against the property and has removed $2,500 in vehicles and RVs. There was a dangerous and hazardous declaration that went on the property on October 4th, 2022. The process we've been working the process since. The special tax remains unpaid and is maturing into a lien. The owner is being foreclosed against by the bank. The city is in communication with the bank and in discussion of ongoing enforcement actions. The Land Bank Commission recently discussed this property and authorized a notice to claim covered property and notice of securing. These notices were recorded in the Registry of Deeds and is also to be served upon the owner by the Sheriff's Department. The notices expired yesterday as calculated but cannot be acted upon until the verification of service by the Sheriff's Department, which will hopefully take place this week, at which time the building and property can then be secured with the police department and assistance, because there is a number of individuals squatting and or occupying the property. There are numerous tents in the backyard and cars parked next to the tents. Once the property is secured and the exterior will be cleaned up and potentially the building abated. The city has received numerous complaints about the property from neighbors. I discussed that with Jamie, Aaron, and Ian in the parking lot today after we were kicked out for a fire alarm here. So that's conference, we know that the parking lot is conference room 1. I get caught in conference room 1 constantly, so. The stairwell is conference room 2, and then I get to the manager's floor, that's number 3, so. There was also notice that there are potentially animals that are being improperly cared for there, so the police department was put into the chain of communications for our animal control officer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you. So we can move on. And Steve, thank you for the detail in those reports. I really appreciate it. And the York housing thing, that's been a really problem for that community. So thank you for following through with that also. All right, communication and presentation, 23-317-01, quarterly report and presentation from the Director of Sanford Regional Economic Growth Council, Keith McBride. It's your turn.
Good evening. Let's see. Ben, is that presentation over here, or does that get put up by you? How does this work now? Or does somebody else have it?
Ben's coming to the rescue.
Oh,
Gosh, Keith, I've been talking for an hour. You could have fixed it, right? You could have cut me off.
So,
oh, okay. All right. That's okay. No worries. Well, thank you. I have a quick presentation on this. I'm Keith McBride, Director of your Growth Council. I've spent some time in the past presenting to you our work plan for 2023, which my board had approved some months ago, I forget which, and I think starting off, I wanted to just take a moment to in a very self-serving sort of way, pat ourselves on the back on some things we've accomplished, or at least are making good progress on within that work plan. Some of the larger goals presented in that work plan included, business attraction, business expansion, retention, public-private partnerships, downtown redevelopment, housing development, and we had some internal goals as well. I want to start off by talking about some public-private partnership news. As you know, and I think we've talked a little bit about this in the past, the facade grant program that we've sort of pioneered this year, utilizing funds from the Community Development Block Grant Program administered by the state, has been very successful so far, and we've had a pipeline of applicants coming through the process. And at this point, we've got one who is at 16 River Street, who has moved through the process much further. There will be some improvements to that building that are being funded through that grant program you should see in very short order. And not only have we managed to create a public-private partnership situation by utilizing those grant funds, but the opportunity has arisen there where the city can actually partner with that property owner to have some access to the river for the fire department and to protect that. We learned through this process that is an access point that they utilize to access water. So we've been working with the property owner who's been able to do that. I mean, there's also been a lot of talk about stormwater, a lot of talk about making sure that the improvements to the site are matching in line and the schedules work with improvements that are planned for River Street and through the RAISE grant over the next couple of years. So there's a lot of cooperation going on in that site. It's been great to see. It's a huge public-private partnership success. Another property that's utilizing some of the facade grant funds is at 880 Main Street. This is a former convenience store down the corner. They're just about finished with their site improvements now, if you've noticed. They've redone much of that facade. There's still some fencing that I think is going to go up that they're waiting for They are preparing for a tenant. I don't know that is who the tenant is public yet, so I don't want to say anything out of turn that I shouldn't say, but they are preparing that for a tenant, and we're hoping we'll have that building occupied and with a business in it in pretty short order. And all the way on the other end of the spectrum, we have a relatively new applicant at 41 Washington. So that's the building that's been under renovation there next to Third Alarm. They're going to be doing a lot of updating to that building, a lot of improvements to that building. A lot of it's currently ongoing, if you've noticed. I think has been going on for some time. But the raise grant that, the facade grant that we're partnering with them on is going to help replace a lot of the glass and create some new awnings for that site, for that building, to give it a great look. And I think that will also make it very much ready for a new tenant and a new business. It's a great looking building in a good location. I think it could work for a number of different commercial uses, so excited to have that back into a productive use. On the business attraction side, something that I think is a huge step forward on a number of reasons. There is an RFP that's being prepared for a market study, an economic market study for Sanford. This is something that we as a Growth Council have said is something needs to be done. The planning department agreed and was able to work with us, and we were able to put some input into that RFP. The goal of it is going to accomplish is to get a better grip on the demand of what types of businesses and what other types of demand there is in Sanford, what type of supply we have, specifically, commercial property, industrial property, and what types of opportunities are out there that we should be capitalizing on for growth. It's also going to collect a lot of socioeconomic and demographic data to give us a good snapshot of present day where we are so that we can chart our growth and chart our progress. And most interestingly, it's going to give us a good jump start on comprehensive plan. All that information is material that would need to be collected to get present day information as we launch into a comprehensive plan process. So I'm excited to say that will be getting started soon. And lastly, just really quickly, in our downtown, you've probably seen a lot of activity from our Heart and Soul and Friends of Downtown groups. They've been doing an awful lot. They're in the story gathering phase of Heart and Soul right now, and basically the goal of that is to collect a lot of information, data from residents, to talk to them about essentially value statements. What's important to you about Sanford? What brought you here? What keeps you here? What are the things you need to see more of? And bringing that all together to get that information to create those types of values. Again, I think that feedback could also really play in well into a comprehensive plan type process. We start talking about what really matters to our residents as a community. The group who is out collecting that information are all volunteers. They're working extraordinarily hard. You'll probably see them around if you attend some community type events. And they've gotten a lot of training on how to collect that information without any type of bias, just collecting the basic information. And the goal is to get a feel for exactly what matters most to everyone. And there's also a bit of demographic collection going on there as well. So there's a lot of action going on with that group right now, and I think we're going to reap a lot of benefits from the work that they're doing. There are other things as well I do want to touch on and could touch on, but I figure we should probably move through. I promised I would keep this a little bit short. I usually take this as an opportunity to touch on some of the macroeconomic things that are going on that are impacting what we're seeing here in Sanford. And I had a whole big, a couple of different highlights to bring out to you. And then like the next day, the chairman of the Federal Reserve came out and announced that his staff is no longer projecting recession, which was pretty earth-shattering news. I can only assume that they're charting trash and ambulance trips. And I think that must be the metric that everyone's going on.
Sent them the data last week.
Did you? Yeah. There you have it. That was a big announcement. Back in January, Mary and I attended the Merida, Maine Real Estate Developers Association conference down in Portland, and the economic projection presentation that was given by an economist from TD Bank. The real centerpiece of it was the question of whether or not we would have a soft landing to this. And would we hit a soft landing or would we hit a recession? And the room was split kind of 50-50 on whether a soft landing was even possible. And with that announcement, I think The Fed chairman did not want to use the word optimistic, which I thought was interesting, but he was willing to say my staff is no longer telling me we're looking at recession. They're not projecting that anymore. Nor did he want to say that they wouldn't raise interest rates again, because I don't think he can say that for certain. But they are looking at slower growth in the economy. It's the growth that we've seen over the last year or so is slowing, even though it is still growing, and an incredible amount of resilience within the economy. So I was ready to bore you with information about how retail sales have really underperformed, that the job market has slowed, but it's still better or equal to pre-pandemic years and all this kind of stuff. But that really is the headline. We're still seeing growth that's slowing, and that's a good thing, and that it's so good to the point where even the Fed is starting to wonder whether or not we're going to hit that soft landing that the economists from TD Bank back in January said that would be very, very hard to do. So we're dealing with a very resilient economy at this point.
I'm just surprised they didn't just ask Steve.
They should have. Really, it would have saved them a lot of time and money, honestly.
I did
Yeah.
notice your shocked face.
I thought that
when
was very
Steve
funny.
made that comment.
I did think, I'm like, geez, they got people who get paid, six-figure salaries crunching numbers, and all they got to do is see how much trash went to the transfer station. It's very interesting. One other thing that was really interesting that I noticed that there's a lot of talk about excess savings, and that to me is from COVID programs. People who were able to put money aside, and that they're projecting there's a lot of money on the sidelines in the average American family. I don't know about that, but what that means to me, and that I do think is true, is that even among American businesses and particularly real estate developers, there is a lot of money on the sideline. There's a lot of people who've wanted to do something, but they're a little skittish, wondering about the economy. And if now all of a sudden we're starting to see those bad news economic indicators lighten up, and if in their next meeting the Federal Reserve says we're not going to raise interest rates, we're just going to hold, I wonder when we're going to start seeing some of those people come out and say, all right, I'm ready to put my money back into the game, at which time we should see some real opportunities for new real estate development, not just in Sanford, but that's a macroeconomic type of thing, and it'll start to happen everywhere. So with that, let's bring it to a more local appeal. Many of you have probably already seen that we are getting a Starbucks, and this is very exciting to people like me who are very much into coffee. This is at the former Bank of America building down in South Sanford. The application, there was an application and approval of site plan at the planning board, so they are ready to go. It was a site plan amendment, I believe, so it's an allowed use in that district. The building has been vacant for some time and is going to get a good makeover, and will include a drive-through at that location. So
Are they going to be open in time for Christmas?
that's a very good question. I don't think that they have said yet what a time frame is for their
Well,
opening.
during December, they make the best mint hot chocolate.
I will let them know that
So I'm
mayor
pushing-
is
I'm
specifically,
pushing for it.
the mayor specifically has requested. I don't know what their time frame is yet on that. There is some work to be done. Of course, they have to make it a branded Starbucks location, and right now it does read very much like a bank. So they have some work cut out for them. I always hand this out. I don't expect that you're going to take it as gospel or anything, but I think it's an interesting piece, this economic development dashboard that we develop every quarter. And I wanted to touch on one thing. I think in the last couple quarters at least, I've come in and said I wish we were seeing more small business and entrepreneurial activity. And then this quarter I got my wish. We're seeing an extraordinary amount of small business activity, much more so than the larger projects, some of which are still lingering at 6+ months old if you look at this document. So that's a shift, very interesting. I don't know what that means, I just know that that's what we're seeing. Those small businesses that are coming forward are at a huge spectrum of types of businesses. We've had restaurateurs, we've had personal services, we've had professional services, and we've had some that are even more unique and strange, and I'm not sure how to classify. But the point is that when that small business owner and entrepreneur starts to come out and starts to take more a step forward in developing new business ideas, that's a very, very exciting time, particularly for, I think, our downtown, which is a ideal location that has spaces available that could fit those types of businesses. When we're talking about larger businesses, big projects, to me, my mind immediately goes to the industrial park area and the airport area. But when we're talking about small businesses looking to be tenants, not looking to develop a new building, I think about downtown. So I think there's a lot of potential for small entrepreneurial type, locally owned businesses to start up downtown. We're working very closely with landlords that have space available, telling them to please get your spaces ready, please get your rents nice and reasonable, make this as easy as possible for us, and we'll get you some good users in there. So that's a pretty exciting thing to see going on. So hopefully we'll have some big ribbon cuttings that I'll be asking you all to come down to on behalf of the city and take some pictures with some new businesses down there. On a larger scale thing, I do want to touch quickly on the Stenton Trust redevelopment project. They are working hard on updating their cost estimates on the development of that site. They're a little bit outdated. They haven't done those cost estimate updates in a little while, so they're working on that and continuing to work at the best of their ability on their capital stack. It's an extremely expensive project. It's a big undertaking, and they are working diligently, but it's been a little quiet on that front, so I didn't want anyone in the community to think that it had somehow vanished. It's still there. They have a lot of work to do, and they are working diligently, and we are helping them on a pretty regular basis. We're in contact with the folks at Wind Development on that, and we will continue to do so. We believe that's a very important project for the community, so I want to make sure I touched on that before I asked if there were any questions. So I'll take any that you may have.
All right, any questions? Ann?
More just a comment, or two comments. One, for folks who don't know, 16 River Street is the old CarQuest building across from Stenton Mill. Not everybody might know that, and it's going to be really exciting to see that work start at that location. And two, I just want to say, Keith, and I am biased as the current city council member of the Growth Council, but I really enjoy these presentations, and I think it's great that you're able to update the community on some things going on, some tangible things going on, and I like the dashboard quite a bit too, so thank you.
I'm glad. I should also say, maybe I've stopped saying this, but I do welcome a great deal of feedback on this. Even though it's been over a year since I've started here, which seems insane to me, but that's the facts, I still feel like we're kind of fine-tuning exactly how this goes and how our communications go, so please don't hesitate to reach out, members of the council or members of the community, if there's anything that we should be talking more about that we're not.
All right. Anyone else in the council? Yes, Pete?
Yeah, the Springville, the old Nassau gym, the dorms up there, the mayor and I drove around, and the windows are up in one of them. We're wondering how close they are to Renton.
Yeah, that's a good question. So they have been in contact with the state, especially with our legislative delegation in Augusta, about some delays they're finding from the Department of Environmental Protection. They are still waiting for some approvals from DEP that they're not getting much action on and getting a little bit tired of waiting. So the good news is that there is an expiration date. DEP has to approve by a certain date or it's kind of granted. So they've got their application in. They just wish they could have gotten that approval a little bit quicker so they could get moving faster. It is pushing their timeline back. They're being very active and being very noisy about wanting DEP to move a little bit quicker and be a little bit more responsive on small, they call that a small project, but on a project like theirs. So they have everything they need from the city. They've been very happy with their dealings with the city. Their concerns right now are they're not getting the same type of friendly service they got from the city of Sanford as they are getting from Augusta. But they are moving forward, and I think one way or another, yes, you will see those start to get rented as soon as they can get their work completed.
Looks nice up there.
Yeah, they're working as much as they can. It's just the site, because I think it's a stormwater issue. They're working as much as they can on the site without getting that approval yet. So the buildings, I think they can still touch.
I would like to point out that I also went with Deputy Mayor Herlihy in her truck, and I went with Pete in his truck. And I have decided I'm not going to be in trucks anymore, because something about you get a truck driver and they think, oh, my neck is still sore. Yeah.
This is all you.
Any other questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Do you have a question? Is your hand up?
Yeah,
Okay.
come up here.
Come on up.
You have to come up.
Only because we like to torture you.
Nope.
And,
Be on camera, right?
and
No,
introduce
you have to
yourself.
speak into the mic, it's a public meeting.
I was wondering if someone could share an update on the business that's going in across from Walgreens on the corner of Route 202 and Main Street.
Didn't he just speak about that? That was part of his presentation.
It's a facade improvement, and there is a business potential, but he is not at liberty to say what it is.
Okay, you
Can't
don't-
say what the business is until they actually get in there.
There's no lease permanent yet, they don't want to, the business sometimes doesn't want you to know, but that renovation has been done because of a facade improvement grant. That's what he just said.
Okay, but you don't know the name of the business or anything?
Someone
No.
does, but we are not allowed to.
We're
know.
not allowed to publicly share it yet.
Okay.
If I had a business moving in and they didn't want people to know, I wouldn't tell you either.
Well, look, whoever's doing it looks like it's doing a pretty good job.
Because I
of
wouldn't
it.
want to lose the tenant.
It's exciting, though, to
Oh,
have,
it's you? Oh, are you
It's
the
ex-
landlord?
no, it's not her. It's exciting to have something going in there, oh, so
It is,
thank
they're
you.
doing a good job renovating it. That's what I had wanted to say.
And we should tell you, you're advertising for them, so whoever it is, so thank you.
Property owner is doing it, I think.
Yeah, I hope Starbucks is gonna have an so you can go inside, not just a drive-through.
You know, I think that building is big enough that they probably will. It's a very large bank, so
I
I
hope
would
so.
think that they could do that. Yeah, I'm excited about it, too.
Me too, I like Starbucks.
Especially if the hot chocolate with
Yeah.
mint is going to be
Yeah, I like it too.
All right. Thank you. And did we have anybody for public participation? No, that was it? Craig, we appreciate it, but there is nobody from the public here. So, and I don't see any hands. No. So we can move right on. I'm going to open it up to, no one? Okay, a public hearing. 23-313-01. I'm opening the public hearing to receive comments in favor or against the new application submitted by Friendly Fire LLC for a medical cannabis grower cultivation license at 168 Country Club Road, Unit A, Sanford, Maine. So we have anybody speak for or against? All right, I'll close the hearing. And let's move on to the consent agenda, 23-314-01, in order to approve the following license request, a new medical cannabis grower cultivation license from Friendly Fire LLC, 168 Country Club Road, Unit A, Sanford, Maine. Do the councilors have any? Yes,
I
Jonathan.
just had a quick question. So what does that bring us up to? It seems like we've got quite a few of these different growers at this point.
This one's medical, so it's a little different. So do we know how many?
I don't know if Jamie has any current count. Jamie, do you have any current count as far as the number of licensed facilities we have, both medical and/or recreational grows? I know a lot of these, many times there's an occupied suite, somebody goes out of business, somebody reoccupies it and applies for a new license. So I've lost track of how many we have.
Are we looking for total numbers or in this building?
I was just curious, total numbers. But if
It's
you
been
have the
fluctuating.
numbers
We've
from the
had
building,
some
that'd be
come
good.
and some go over the last 6 months, so I honestly don't know an exact number, but we're at probably approximately 38. If I had, I'm going to say between 35 and 38, but again, we're losing some, we're gaining them just as quick as we lose them, changeover. So I'd say around 35 to 38 licensed cultivators
Okay, thank you.
in 8 licensed properties.
Thank you. We're just checking your mind to see how fast you can be.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? All right, so all those in favor of this, might as well take a vote, seeing as we're talking about it. We don't have to have a motion, I'll just approve it, where it's on the consent agenda. Right? You got a puzzled look on your face, so, okay, good. All right, let's move on to old business. 23-322-01, confirm the findings and order adjudicating 9 Devotion Avenue to be a dangerous building and nuisance pursuant to 17 MRSA Section 2, 2851, 2859, at the hearing held on July 18th, 2023, and authorize the city manager to sign and findings and order for the city council, and have the city clerk record in its registry of deeds and advertise or serve it upon the owner and parties in interest as required by law. So, Ian, are you going to speak on this?
I don't need to. I usually inform you that I have had conversations with the legal counsel,
Okay.
and they've been provided copies of the draft orders, and they have made no objections.
All right. And I know this was taken at a meeting that I wasn't here, so I know you already took it all up. So do we vote on this? We do. Okay, so could I have a motion, please? Pete?
Yeah, I motion to go forward with this on a vote.
Okay, and do I have a second? Nate?
I'll second the motion.
All right, all those in favor? All right, and that was 100%. I'll do the next one. 23-323-01, confirm the findings and order adjudicating 27 Riverside Avenue to be a dangerous building and a nuisance pursuant to 17 MRSA Section 2851-2859 at the hearing held on July 18, 2023, and authorize the city manager to sign the findings and order for the city council, and have the city clerk record it in the registry of deeds and advertise or serve it upon the owner and parties in interest as required by law.
I'll make a motion that we confirm the findings in order.
Okay, thank you. A second? Pete?
I second.
All those in favor? Thank you. Moving right along, 23-274-01, in order to approve purchase of 5 center armrests for Central Park benches in the amount of $1,020. Is Brady online? Is he going to speak to this, or?
We had a long discussion at the last meeting. We ended in a tie. I'm not sure we need to speak on it. I think
Okay.
it's more we need to have a motion, a vote, and see which way it goes. 'Cause
All
I-
right. Could we have a motion, please? Bob?
Move we approve funding.
Okay, second? Pete?
I second that.
And a discussion, I would have to say that I probably am in favor of it, not as a punishment or anything negative. I'm thinking of it a gentle nudge to share the bench, so that people don't sleep on the bench. So that is my thinking behind it and why I would vote for this, not as to prevent people from using it, but to make sure everybody gets to use it. So that would be my thinking. Ann?
At the last meeting, we requested input from the police department, in particular the mental health unit. I think we might have lost Sergeant Adams, but I don't know if DC Small or Chief Anderson might speak to the impact on the folks living outside of our implementation of this, or have any thoughts that they want to share.
Okay, thank you. Chief, would you want to come up and have a word, please?
Hi, Craig Anderson from the Police Department. Our opinion is that the separations should go in. Our observation is that for folks that want to use the bench, if somebody's laying on it, they're utilizing the whole bench and taking it away from someone who wants to sit. The bench is large enough for 2 or 3 people to sit on. It only makes sense that we allow folks to have a seat and not one person utilize the whole bench.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
We pretty much all gave our opinion last week, so
Okay.
it was a good discussion, so.
You know,
Yeah.
if the library had stayed open longer, I might have heard it. All right.
It's not that we're disinterested. We all know that anybody wants to see the various counselor comments to look at
Okay.
the last meeting, but.
All those in favor? That's 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed? 3. 4 to 3, so it passes. All right. Under new business, there is an item that isn't under here. We're going to take it up first, and it's a grant for improving part of the trails, and it's the trails that's closest to the library, to the high school. And you can tell I've got library on my mind. And the reason we're putting that in right now is because, from what I understand, the high school starts their sports program August 14th or 15th, and this needs to be done before then, because the next opportunity for them to do this would then be next spring. So, and in order to write for other grants, you have to use the grant you already have.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we add this to the agenda for the grant.
All right, thank you. A second? Ann?
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, is Brady going to speak on this? Hi, Brady, I can see you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. We have two bids on this project. One is from STS, they're local out of Lebanon, for $38,270, and the other is from Skid Steer Services, which is out of Naples, and that was for $52,330. We would like to pursue STS as they fall within our budget. We have used them for local projects before, and they have also completed work on this trail, not a section that's already done, but or not a section that is needing to be done, but a section that is already done. So it should flow all as one if they were to be awarded this bid. And yeah, if you have any questions, I have.
And Brady, can they get this done by August 15th?
I called in today. I'm going to call them first thing tomorrow morning if they are awarded the bid, and I do believe that they can get this done prior to the start of the cross-country season.
That is fantastic. Any questions?
No, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the bid we received from STS in the amount of $38,270 to complete the Malsom Way Loop at the high school.
And do I have a second? Pete, and question?
I'll second.
Jonathan has a question.
Thank you. I was just wondering if you could kind of clarify a little bit with some background on this project and what the intent is of this trail, and a little bit about the grant and the cost to the city for the just for the taxpayers, so they know what their contribution to this is. It looks like it's around $9,000, I believe. So if you could comment on that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Could you hear that?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
So the this is just a trail maintenance. This is already an established trail. It's going over the sewer line behind the high school, and the sewer line that jets out to Alumni Drive. I don't have all of the numbers in front of me, but for the local match, it was just about split between the Malsom Way Land Trust and the Trails Committee, for a total of $8,000. And then there was a total of $1,000 that was for the SRTC students doing some work on gate modification.
Okay, any other questions? All right, all those in favor? That's all of us. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I hope the gate modifications allow you to get a bicycle around there safely without.
Or we'd just like to challenge Maura and her family.
I didn't fall off, but I know someone who did. It's hard to get it to go around those gates.
Okay, let's move on. 22-373-01, in order to approve the Midtown Mall Maintenance Assessment for 2023-2024 fiscal year. And Ian?
Good evening. So this is in order to approve the maintenance assessment for this year. It gets assessed as a tax. This is based on last year's accumulated maintenance cost through the end of June. What that includes, and I've attached a table to that, it includes the maintenance costs, which winter maintenance costs were higher than usual due to the winter weather. Parking lot costs were higher due to increases in electric supply. And additionally, we spent $22,000 on repairing lighting on the concourse stairways, which was a capital project. The way this is calculated, so the accumulated total maintenance costs was approximately $55,000. Per the ordinance, 60% of those costs is assigned to the properties within the district, which includes the Midtown Mall. That cost is pursuant to the ordinance $33,000 because of those accumulated maintenance costs. This is the second year that we've had this assessment in place, and in the second year, 2/3 of the 60% are assigned to those three properties, and that total value is $21,928.18. It'll be assessed based on the tax assessed value when that's committed by the assessor, and just looking to see what you've got up on the screen there. I provided a table of the plowing costs, the shoveling costs through the winter, as well as the parking lots lighting as calculated, as well as the concourse stair repair capital project representing that total cost, and then a comparison between the actual accumulated costs between last year and this year. Last year, the maintenance costs were $19,652. This year, we're talking about $54,820. And then last year, because we were in the first year, the phase-in was 1/3 of 60%. It was a light snow year, and without a capital project. So the 60% was roughly $12,000, and this year it's $32,000. Open to answering any questions. Although the Midtown Mall parking lot is a public lot, it provides service to specific businesses at the Midtown Mall.
Maura, you had questions?
So one of the things that, if I were a person paying this fee, I would think that I'd want to see more summertime, springtime maintenance, where the islands are maybe put back into good shape. They used to be actually kind of pretty with some nice greenery in them. And so I don't know if there's some intention to start like looking at those, like, let's get this back in shape cost, and then annual cost based on maintaining that instead of just letting it all go like we did. Because I am sure that would make the paying for this a lot easier, and it would be a lot more pleasant if they actually had a good-looking place in the summer too. So, and I know the worst islands are Lower Midtown Mall and the ones that actually belong to Mr. Chen, or the Sanford Trust Building. But it's the other ones that, if we brought them up, there'd be probably the ability to put more pressure on the other owners of the other islands.
So the way that the ordinance works and what we're allowed to assign cost to is contracted cost. So we can't assign, for example, we do, the Public Works does the snow hauling right now. Parks and Recreation maintains the landscaping in the public areas. So if that was to be the direction you want to go, it would make sense to contract that landscaping activity out to a private contractor.
I think it would be a nice thing to look for next spring. So, I don't know how the rest of my counselors feel, but it doesn't look great. And if we're trying to redo our downtown, yeah, it doesn't look great. I know they try, but we need to do an island with a light and the ability. It should be prettier, like when we were younger. We let it go, and it's not nice.
Do most of us agree with that we could? Okay, so that seems like a nod, that if we could make that happen.
So start researching that would be great.
Yep, and I'll work with Brady. I think you're still listening, Brady, so we can talk about how to move that into a contractual line item.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Sorry, quick question.
Jonathan.
So I was just looking at the maintenance costs from 22 to 23, and can you expound a little bit on why the winter maintenance went from 14 grand to almost double that to almost 28,000?
I can. So the couple primary drivers on that. So the capital project was a major one. So we spent $22,000 on fixing those stairs. So that was approved in last year's capital plan. So we
Yeah, that's a separate line item. I'm just looking at the winter maintenance.
Yep. Okay. The winter maintenance, it actually just has to do with snowfalls and when it fell. year 22, we didn't have a lot of snowfall and not much snow accumulation, so there wasn't much to plow. But in this last year, I don't know if it was a higher than normal snow season. We just had a lot of messy snow, if you recall, and we had it quite frequently. I'm just remembering January and February. I just remember a lot of messy weekdays and weekends.
So that cost is kind of variable depending on the number of storms? That's not contracted?
It's a contracted cost, so if it's a plowable snow event, the contractor will mobilize to clear the lot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the report? Ann,
So moved, Madam Mayor.
do I have a second? Jonathan?
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, and the next is 23-319-01, in order to accept a bid from Milton Cat of Scarborough, Maine, for the Cat 440 backhoe for the Department of Public Works. Like I know what this is.
It's a backhoe.
Oh, okay. Is Matt speaking on this, or you, Steve?
Matt will present on this.
I didn't.
Good evening. Yes, so the background on this is that the Department of Public Works has had a couple backhoes historically. We've dedicated one to the transfer station and one to the highway department. Over time, our transfer station backhoe aged out, and we moved our highway department backhoe over to the transfer station for use over there, and highway's gone without. So that's resulted in, when we have emergent projects or construction going on, that we have to load an excavator and or a loader onto a flatbed trailer and haul it around the city. But what is more expedient is to take a backhoe out onto the street and respond directly rather than trucking equipment back and forth. So we went out to bid and we budgeted for a new backhoe. And we received two bids. The low bid is from Milton Cat, as you mentioned, in the amount of $156,145. The backhoe does meet the specifications required by the department. And this piece will give us the ability to respond faster in urgent situations, such as trees being down or things that need to be cleaned out quickly. We're also still looking at, our excavator situation and other pieces. So this piece it's new. It gives us some flexibility in our response and ability to have some agility in responding.
Thank you. Any questions? Jonathan?
Questions tonight. So I assume this is already built into your capital budget. So this isn't a surprise expense. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Nate?
Thank you. Just a brief question here. I noticed the other backhoe is less than $20,000 more. Is there any significant difference between these two in terms of providing longevity? Just looking at sort of the long-term use of both of these, this backhoe.
As far as the technical details go, I generally leave that up to the experts, being the operators, as well as our mechanics in the garage. They did review both proposals thoroughly and made the recommendation for the Cat, which happened to be $20,000 lower. So, they're most familiar with what they need for capabilities. And I would defer to them, but we do have an excellent working relationship with Milton Cat out of Scarborough. So that not only counts as far as providing excellent sales, but also service and parts availability.
Thank you.
All right. Do I have a motion? Pete?
Go ahead, Pete.
I motion to move forward with this.
Thank you. Jonathan?
Second?
All those in favor? Fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Moving right along, we've got 23-320 2023-01. And this is in order to accept a resignation of Kevin McKeon from the Trails Committee. And Kevin sent an email with his resignation on July 17th, 2023. Do I have a motion to accept his resignation?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the resignation of Kevin McKeon with extreme regret from the Trails Committee. He's been a wonderful member of the Trails Committee, and I hope he doesn't lose his passion for the trails, even if he's not serving on the committee.
Thank you very much. Second, Nate.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor? Thank you. And I also say that we really appreciate Kevin's hard work over the past 6 years. He will be missed, and we wish him well. 2023-328-01, in order to authorize pedestrian use of the sidewalks and shoulders along Main Street, Route 109, and Heidi Street between 8:15 a.m. and 9:15 a.m. on Saturday, September 2nd, 2023, to accommodate participants in the Randall's Run Walk for the Gym 5K race with police presence for traffic control. If you vote on this, I would let you know that I am not going to participate in this. I can't picture running.
You can do it.
So, no, I don't think I can. So, yeah, this would be a definite walk for me. So do I have a motion? Ann?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second that.
Jonathan? And all those in favor? All right. Were there any questions before? Because I know how you're just eager, all of you, to join this. All right. Okay, good.
Now I feel like I have to walk.
I actually
Laura's
always
going to join.
I always want to do this race, but I'll be slinging apple cider donuts at that point of time. So,
Well, my family usually does do this. My daughter, who was pregnant and pushed 2 kids in her stroller, won this race one year. Yeah, she's a runner. Yeah. Hence, her mother is not. 23-298-01. This is a hearing to determine whether 7 Mills Street, identified tax map K15 Lot 6 and K15 Lot 12, and further described in the deed recording in the York County Registry of Deeds at Book 17939, page 505, and mortgage recorded in the Book 17939, page 507. Hopefully I'm not reading something twice here.
You're good.
Is a dangerous building or a nuisance within the meaning of 17 MRSA Section 2821, 51, 2859, and to determine what, if any, remedy is appropriate. This hearing is a reopening of the City Council hearing held on July 18, 2023, for the purpose of allowing additional time for the code enforcement to conduct a comprehensive re-inspection of the property and afford John, Kent, and James additional time to take back possession of the property secured and building and remove all trash and debris from the exterior of the building. Ian, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thank you. So like you said, this is a continuation of the hearing held on July 18th. It's a reopening of that hearing. The City Council continued this hearing until tonight. This is a copy of the notice of hearing that was delivered to the owner. There's a copy of the receipt. This information is in your packet. I'm going to just going through the additional material at this point. There was some discussion last time regarding the address of 100 versus 110 in Comac, New York, and to whether or not the notice of violation had been received. This is the certification that was signed by the owner of receipt of that notification, along with some email correspondences regarding the trash bins overflowing, rats around the trash bin, and regarding violations of that. And then at that time, they had submitted their rental inspection, and then Aaron's asking for the certification. Then we talked about the order to vacate last time and provided a certification, provided a lien notice. I received, Cody sent this check that was received on Monday. So payment of taxes, unrelated to the dangerous building matter, but indicative of not paying property taxes on time. So it is a 5-unit rental property. At the time that we had the first hearing on this, and as of June 27th, the property taxes were overdue, and as of last, I think that was Wednesday, July 26th, the taxes hadn't still not been paid. And then they did pay the sewer fees were in arrears, and as of July 26th, they were paid. And I did run through the police reports with you last time as well. I did provide an email. Aaron is going to reschedule the inspection for this coming Thursday, I believe at 10 o'clock, with the owner. And this is information that's not in the packet regarding the correspondence regarding that. We attempted to conduct this inspection on Thursday of last week, but this is the correspondence. Aaron and I waited around an hour, and no one was able to attend with us. So we did fill out Barron did prepare a new notice of violation. It's not a comprehensive inspection of all the units, but it does discuss similarly what took place outside. We looked at the decks. They're collapsing and falling apart. They've got improper footings. There's broken steps, rotting wood, and missing risers. In preparing for this hearing, I did go back and look at the 2019, and I got this wrong on the notice here. The the October 30th, 2019 inspection, item H on the hearing. It's October 30th, 2019. The improper deck footings are mentioned. The rotting wood sections and the missing risers are listed there. And I'm just bouncing back to the July 26 here. Windows were open when we were there. The front door was still held closed with a string. There's a large portion of the exterior that are inadequately maintained, dilapidated, or decaying. The roof is buckling around the soffits at the soffit end, on the lower end of the roof, along the ridge line. The decks, again, are not structurally sound. They sway when you stand on them. And a few of the mattresses and a couch had been removed, but there's a large pile of debris in the backyard covered by tarps, some luggage, things like that. And I'll show you some pictures that are still in the yard. And also additional mention of the decks in this notice of violation. And then Aaron points out that the lack of minimum size lettering regarding addressing for the property. The walls are not maintained. In some places, there's some rot. And then I mentioned the roof showing signs of damage. There's also screens ripped. They have holes. concrete pads are cracked and broken. There's a lot of places where people can trip. And then Aaron mentions again the improper footings, and then broken and decayed, and I'll show you some pictures of that. And we talked about last time the steps leading up to some of the units, missing handrails that are falling off, guardrails that are bowed and dilapidated, not well attached. And also mentioned of trash on the decks. I'll show you some pictures. Broken appliances out on the decks, bicycles, and decayed paint cans stacked, decaying mattresses, rubbish. There's a picture of gasoline cans, and then wiring tucked into the mailbox at the front. Let's see, here are the additional photographs. Here's the string as of the 25th of July. You can see Aaron's vehicle in the back there, but one door holding the other door shut. I mentioned the property, the unit that seems to have someone living in it. This is the unit that is blacked out throughout. So they've got sheets up so that you can't see lights inside. I don't know whether someone's in there, but it has that appearance. Windows open, screens damaged as mentioned. Other places where windows are wide open. Similar situations, windows open in other places. This is the garbage that's mentioned in the back. Looks like one of those boxes that you put on the back of a pickup sitting there. This is the tarp material.
Last Tuesday.
Trash bags included. You can see some cans peeking out from under it. There's some luggage on the back side of it. I don't know what's under there. Something under there. Broken windows on these doors. This is on the upper floor. I don't remember this window being broken from the previous photos from July 11th, but a piece of cardboard is put in the place where the window has been broken on that door, looking like to get inside. This is a picture. This mattress is laid in front of a door with the door frame in front of it. I don't know if that's to barricade it or whether that's just being disposed. You can see the variety of trash in front of it. That's the photo. These are photos taken from the 25th. A variety of trash and things in front. These are the paint cans that are stacked around. Gasoline cans that are up here, other pieces of trash. Bicycles up on top of the roof. Again, I don't remember whether those were there from the 11th, but they're there on the 25th. There's a picture in the rear here. This area is pooling water up on the roof. You can see the cracked railing up on this deck. Some of the refrigerator equipment, appliances that are up here on this poorly supported decking system. That's really the secondary means of escape for these units, possibly the primary means of access. I shared a picture of this. It looks like someone's been cleaning inside here, which is good. This refrigerator is looking quite ancient. It's quite the smell that emanates from this unit here. Mentioned a lot of these footings, these improper footings. You can see that this footing is kind of disintegrated all over the ground. At this point, it's broken out. This whole deck system sways. These stairs are broken out. Here's the mention of I believe these are communication wires shoved in the mailbox, but it's unsafe in that state. And I'm just going to go back through the photos here from the other ones. This wasn't a complete view of the property, just this is the state that it was in on the 11th. Some of the broken railings, risers. This is that same picture of that unit. Looks like it had been undergoing some cleaning. This sink was still here on the 25th. The windows are still in similar cases. There's mention of missing ceiling tiles in the violation notice from October 30th, 2019. These still seem to be here. I'll just list those at this point. That mentions NFPA 101. So the heating system lacks smoke partition from the occupied space. I think it'd be worthwhile to see a picture of that and what's meant. This is a picture of it. I don't know, and maybe Aaron can clarify whether an occupied space, what's meant is this is basement space or whether this is occupied tenant space. So I'd like to clarify that with Aaron. But nonetheless, it's still in violation of that. The common spaces lack continuous lighting. I don't know whether or not that's been corrected with whatever the City Council decides to do here tonight. That's a minimum requirement that this is corrected from 2019. There's multiple plumbing hazards, including improper use of mechanical vents, incorrect trap locations, improper couplings. That requires a plumbing permit, and I don't know whether or not that's been, that those have been pulled. That's from the 2019 violation. We made mention of the improper deck footings, rotting wood sections, and missing risers from 2019 that exist until the 25th. The electrical system hazards, I can't make out in the photos, but without an electrical permit, I would assume that the cracks in the plates, the missing plate covers and missing GFCI outlets are still in the same condition. At the time, they were cited for a violation for the sprinkler system being unmaintained because of uninspection. And I know that that's a question at hand is the maintenance of the sprinkler system to be able to occupy this building again. So that would be a minimum requirement. The interior surfaces, there's broken, water-stained, and missing ceiling tiles, which you can see in these photos, and that seems to have been continued from 2019. I'm also looking at the floor here and seeing a variety of different floor coverings and trip hazards there as well. In the July 23rd, 2023 violation, the sprinkler system was malfunctioning. There's reference to that again. Trash and debris around the unit, which you saw the pictures of, that it still exists even after multiple iterations of cleaning some out. And there's cited broken windows. Those photos are with the original batch of photos that you can see. And I made mention to that cardboard covering up the door window on the third floor. The July 25th inspection cited a dangerous structure because of faulty deck construction, improper and decaying footings on those structures, broken steps, rotting wood, and missing risers. It's a dangerous premises from the perspective of there's windows are open and the interior is accessible. The front door is held together by a string. It's a dangerous structure because the exterior and the structure is in a state of inadequate maintenance, dilapidation, and decay. The roof is buckling on the edge and the ridge. The deck is not structurally sound. It is rotting material. There's missing risers on the stairs. There's improper handrails. Guards are bowed, broken, and dilapidated. And the exterior walls are damaged, and there's trash on the exterior of the property. The electrical system hazard made reference to the wire tucked into a broken mailbox. I would say that the wire was tucked into a mailbox. And the stairs and walking surfaces are in poor condition, cracked and broken. Those are primarily the violations. As Aaron and I saw that on the 25th, it did not appeared to be secure at this point, so it is unsecure. It lacks adequate maintenance. I think I think there's general agreement with the property owner. We've been in a lot of email correspondences over the last 2 weeks, and I think what they're struggling with is managing this property from afar. I think they're struggling with a property manager that can do this for them, and I think that may be exacerbating the situation. The windows and doors are unlocked, broken, or open. There have been reports of illegal acts being committed on the property made to local law enforcement. There's been some crimes being committed here. The interior lights are on during the day in uninhabitable units, and some of the windows have been blacked out. It's showing just a lack of security and lack of maintenance that the property owner does not seem to be fully aware of. This is a hazard to health and safety, and it's dangerous to the property and to life. Furthermore, there's inadequate maintenance. It's being improperly used from the perspective of the code enforcement officers ordered the property vacated, and it's unfit for human occupancy. The windows and doors are continuously left unlocked and broken. There's rubbish and trash. Furnishings and personal property are absent. What's left is damaged, unusable, and junk. And then from that perspective, what's in there, mentioned specifically the gas cans around are fire hazards and unsanitary. The building and improvements on the property, including the roof, footings, and access and egress and decks and stairs, are deteriorated, dilapidated, and those constitute a threat to public health and public safety. And then reports of trespassing and other illegal acts being committed on the property have been made to local law enforcement agencies. So if you have any questions for me, I'm making a recommendation from the perspective of that this is a dangerous situation as to how we got here. There are avenues to get out of it, from which the perspective of the dangerous building hearing can afford. So the expectation is that they need to secure it. The order says within 24 hours. Then it also says that exterior material needs to be out of there within 30 days. And then what the city council will be doing is be ordering the nuisance abated, which includes building removed, disposed, or secured. And then they can submit for a rehabilitation plan, and they have 30 days from the time that they receive the notice. So I was doing this math with Partners Bank this afternoon. So with the expectation that we do another confirmation hearing on this on August 15th, I would expect that they receive notice somewhere around, they would receive confirmation on August 25th. So therefore, a month after that, we would expect a rehabilitation plan, which would talk about how they're going to correct the deficiencies. So all those notices of violation, plus they're going to meet local code. So they're going to bring up to the minimum standards of local code and submit for building permits to do that, make the property occupiable again, and submit for a rehabilitation plan by demonstrating the ability and willingness to satisfactorily rehabilitate the building. If we keep to that, right, and I say we, being the city and the owner, then I don't see why they couldn't bring this property back into use or some appropriate reuse with a rehabilitation plan. So that's my recommendation to you. I'm glad to answer any questions that you have, and if you have any questions for Aaron as well. We've tried to meet what the city council has asked since the last meeting, and
Thank you. Pete?
Thank you. Hey, so we gave the gentleman from New York 14 extra days from the last meeting we were here. What have you got done on the property in the 14 days? Have they done anything?
From my observation, they removed some mattresses that were in the backyard, and they removed a couch.
So we're near closer to occupancy in those 5.
Well, I don't know what else has been done, because we weren't able to do this inspection. There's no any.
John or James, do you have a comment to make?
Yes. So, good evening. So according to my list, you asked for garbage that was next to the dumpster to be removed. We did remove that garbage. Yes, there is other garbage.
Okay, wait, let's hold on a second, because I've read the minutes, and it does not take a whole lot to hire a large dumpster and have somebody come and dump all the stuff that was around your property. So let's not nickel and dime this thing to death, because that sounds like the path you are on right now. And also, I followed through that the last time you made a comment that you didn't know about any of those other violations, yet there is a signed piece of paper saying you did. So when I went by that building, there was a ton of junk there. So why didn't somebody hire this huge dumpster and start dumping the stuff in? Explain that to me.
Well, unfortunately, we ran into a hiccup with our custodian. He had a health issue last week. He was supposed to meet Aaron at the property for the inspection last week.
I don't want an excuse. I want, you could have hired a crew to come in. You can go, online, you could have found somebody to do this. So don't blame it on your one maintenance person. Why didn't you hire a crew to come in and do this?
I guess it was poor planning on our side. I thought we just had to meet 4 or 5 criteria that the city council gave us to.
No, that didn't, it wasn't 4 or 5 things. I thought it was pretty clear. Do any of the counselors have any other questions?
We made the recommendations. It wasn't just clear around the dumpster, it was clear up the property, secure the property, and meet with Aaron, and go do an inspection. It was pretty easy, pretty doable in 2 weeks, and I am of a mind that I am going to vote to declare this property dangerous and hazardous this evening. I don't know what the rest of my counselors are gonna say, but I don't think I want to spend a night hearing excuses, because I'm not going to give you another 2 weeks.
Well, can I finish, please?
You may.
Okay, so you asked to have the 2022 taxes paid. We paid them. You asked to have the building secured by tonight's meeting. They did change the doors today. The building is secure. Aaron could see that on Thursday when he comes. You asked to have some trucks removed. We had the trucks removed. And you asked for the garbage by the dumpster to be removed. Yes, we could have cleaned up the whole property, but we were trying to get past today's.
Okay, I think we've probably heard enough. You're almost to the verge of insulting us. So I'm going to be also putting forth for this building. Now, you do understand that now you have about 30 days that you can then move forth and get stuff done. If within that 30 days you come up with a plan, you meet with Ian, then this is kind of, by declaring you a dangerous building, it kind of forces you to do something. And so, and you can come back from this. If you listen to Ian, you can come back from this as long as you do your, is it called a safety plan? What is it?
It's a rehabilitation plan.
Rehabilitation plan. So you need to do that. So I think you guys need a little bit of encouragement to be able to do this. So I'm also going to vote for this to be a dangerous building and put that forth. Is there anybody on the council that doesn't feel this is a dangerous building? Or is it time?
I don't feel as though enough has been completed in the last 2 weeks to, I mean, we tried giving you guys a little extra time, and, I mean, there's a ton of guys on Facebook that advertise all the time that they do cleanouts and clean up yards and stuff. So, I mean, it would have taken a phone call to at least do that. And then, it looks like you've got people still breaking in, so the building's not secure. So, yeah, I think I'm going to support moving forward with this. So.
Pete?
Yeah, the whole idea is those 5 units we want rented. And we're not any closer from 2 weeks ago to today. You got to admit that. We're not any closer for anything. So I'm also going to vote for dangerous business, dangerous building, so we can get you a rehabilitation plan, so we can get these rented, gentlemen. That's the bottom line here.
Nate, are you in favor of dangerous building?
I mean, we look at it from a objective standpoint here. I understand some progress might have been done with the trash cleanup, but it's dangerous. So I would likely be leaning in favor of a dangerous
Thank
building.
you. Bob?
I also am going to support the motion for a dangerous building. I do want to say, though, gentlemen, thank you for paying the taxes and thank you for paying the sewer bill. I think I'm the one who initiated that at the last meeting. I do appreciate that, but I'm going to vote for this because I don't think you for whatever the reason is, you haven't made enough progress on this. So the dangerous building process kicks in, holding your feet to the fire, rehabilitation plan, those kind of things. Ample time to work through all this. This is not, the end of the world or anything, but I just feel it needs to be done at this point. So, but
Thank you.
I do thank you for the check for the taxpayers here.
Ann, any comments? The same, dangerous building. Maura, could you read our findings, please?
Do you want to read the agenda item?
Hold on a second.
On the agenda.
This one?
Yeah.
Based on the testimony and other evidence, 23299-01. Based on the testimony and other evidence presented at the hearing pursuant to 17 MRSA Section 2851, 2859, regarding 7 Mill Street, what does the City Council find are the findings, and what does the City Council adjudicate?
Madam Mayor, based on the testimony and other evidence, I find, A, the building, the property at 7 Mill Street has 5 dwellings that the code enforcement officer ordered vacated after January 23rd, 2023 because of the improper occupancy to which the property was put. B, the property is unsecure and lacks adequate maintenance. Windows and doors are unlocked, broken, and open. There have been reports of illegal acts being committed on the property made to local law enforcement agencies. Interior lights are on during the day in uninhabitable units. Windows have been blacked out in other units, and vehicles come and go from the property, indicating lack of management and illegal use of the uninhabitable property. The lack of security and inadequate maintenance constitutes a hazard to health and safety and is dangerous to life and property. C, the property lacks adequate maintenance and is improperly used as evidenced by, the code enforcement officer has ordered the property vacated and prohibited occupancy and made a determination that the property is unfit for occupancy. Windows and doors are continuously left unlocked and are broken. Rubbish, trash, or debris has accumulated on the property. Furnishings and personal property are absent from the property, and any remaining personal property is damaged or unusable and generally describable as junk, debris, household trash, and possibly hazardous, and is a fire hazard and is unsanitary. The building and improvements on the property, including the roof, footings, access and egress, decks and stairs, are deteriorating and dilapidated so as to constitute a threat to public safety, and reports of trespass and other illegal acts being committed on the property have been made to local law enforcement agencies. D, the accumulation of debris and junk on the property, such as tarp junk, luggage, mattresses, gasoline cans, is unsanitary and improper to a residential use. E, access to and egress from the units is unsafe via stair structures that are swaying, I'm assuming, and are structurally unstable with footings that are improper and deteriorated, and with broken stairs, treads, and stringers and railings. F, the building is dilapidated, including the pooling of water on the roof and perforated roofing membrane and rot at the soffits and stair structures. G, the property lacks adequate maintenance and oversight by the property owner, a condition that is dangerous to life and property. H, an inspection on January 23rd, 2023 found violations of City Code Section 90-13B, subsection 5.
Can you correct that? Just an inspection on October 30th, 2019.
An inspection on October 30th, 2019.
Thank you.
Found violations of City Code Section 90-13B, subsection 5, 2015 International Property Maintenance Code, IPMC, and Section 128-25.A.2, 2009 NFPA 101 as adopted by reference. NFPA 101, sections 31.3.2.2.1.2, heating system lacks smoke partition from occupied space. Section 7.8.1.2, lack of continuous lighting. IMPC section 504.3, multiple plumbing hazards including improper use of mechanical vents, incorrect trap locations, improper couplings. Section 304.10, improper deck footings, rotted wood sections, missing risers. Section 604.3, electrical system hazards in all units such as cracked overpipes, missing cover plates, missing GFCI outlets. Section 704.1.1, sprinkler system unmaintained, uninspected. Section 305.3, interior surfaces, broken, water stained, missing ceiling tiles in units. An inspection on October, is this
Correct.
October 19?
Nope, January 23rd,
This is
2013.
this January 23rd. An inspection on January 23rd, 2023 found violations of City Code Sections 90-13B, subsection 5, 2015 International Property Maintenance Code, as adopted by reference. Section 704.1, sprinkler system malfunctioning. Section 302.1, trash and debris around units. Section 303.13.1, broken windows. An inspection on July 25th, 2023 found violations of City Code Sections 90-13B, subsection 5, 2015 International Property Maintenance Code as adopted by reference, Section 108.1.5.5, dangerous structure, faulty deck construction, improper broken and decayed footings, broken steps, rotten wood, and missing risers. Section 108.1.5.7, dangerous premises. Windows are open and interior accessible. Front doors held closed by a string. Section 108.1.5.9, dangerous structure. Exterior areas of structure are in a state of inadequate maintenance, dilapidation, and decay. Roof is buckling on the edge and ridge. Deck is not structurally sound and has rotted material. Missing risers on stairs, improper handrails, guards are bowed, broken and dilapidated, exterior walls are damaged, and there is trash and junk on the exterior of the property. Section 604.3, electrical system hazard, wiring tucked into broken mailbox. Section 305.4, stairs and walking surfaces in poor repair, cracked and broken. K, the property is uninhabitable and may not be occupied without an approved rehabilitation plan. Based on the foregoing findings, the municipal officers adjudge that the property is a dangerous building and nuisance because the building lacks security and adequate maintenance and is improper to the use to which it is put. The accumulation of junk is unsanitary and a hazard to health and safety. The lack of security, inadequate maintenance, and improper use constitutes a hazard to health and safety. The property is dangerous to life and property and a public nuisance and must be abated or satisfactorily rehabilitated. I need a second.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Thank you. And in case you didn't hear, I closed the hearing after the 23-298-01. So you'll be aware of it, and then you corrected a date on there, so October 30th, 2019. All right, so we got those. All right, 23-304-01, after hearing testimony and other evidence.
We have to take a vote on that one.
We just did.
Did we raise our hands?
Yes.
We did? Oh my God, I totally missed it. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
No, we did. We don't vote on that.
That's why they typically do these in threes.
After hearing testimony and other evidence presented, and then making findings of fact, and then judging 7 Mill Street to be a dangerous building or a nuisance pursuant to 17 MRSA Section 2851, 2859, the City Council now makes the following orders to abate the nuisance and appropriate corrective actions taken.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that is ordered that to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the property is to be immediately secured within 24 hours, and be it further ordered that any and all rubbish, debris, vehicles, equipment, household, human, hazardous waste, and dangerous materials are to be removed from the property and properly disposed, and the property maintained free of debris and plant growth within 30 days. And be it further ordered that to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the said dangerous building and nuisance is to be immediately abated, building removed, disposed, or secured. And be it further ordered, if the owner or party in interest demonstrates the ability and willingness to satisfactorily rehabilitate the building by submitting and having a rehabilitation plan approved by the city manager within 30 days of recording this order and carrying out such rehabilitation plan in a timely manner, the order to immediately abate the dangerous building and nuisance may be delayed. Such rehabilitation plan must include, at a minimum, all deficiencies listed as part of the findings of fact as herein set forth are corrected. The building is rehabilitated and brought into compliance with all applicable state and local codes and meets all permitting and inspection requirements. There shall be no occupancy or use of the building until the property has been satisfactorily rehabilitated. And be it further ordered that the city clerk record this order in the York County Registry of Deeds and cause attested copies of this order to be served upon the persons as required by law. And be it further ordered that if this order is not complied with, the city manager is hereby authorized and directed to ask for bids for the abatement, which is buildings removal, disposal, or securing of the said dangerous building and nuisance. And be it further ordered that if this order is not timely complied with and no timely appeal is taken, the city manager may undertake the ordered corrective action at municipal expense and recover all expenses, including reasonable attorney's fees, by means of a special tax or civil action. This decision may be appealed to Superior Court pursuant to Maine Rule of Civil Procedure 80B.
May I have a second? Pete?
I second.
All those in favor? Thank you. All right, on to the next. City council member comments. I just want to add a bit of sad news. Tom Cody's mom passed away. So just letting you know and Tom used to be the mayor of our city for a long time. So I thought people might like to know that and to make contact with his family. So thank you. Other people with comments? Pete?
Yeah, I just want to say again, Steve, thanks a lot for what you've been doing the past couple of weeks, just cranking out and taking care of the homeless and the asylum seekers. I appreciate it.
Ann?
Two quick things. One, I just want to give a shout out to Friends of Downtown and Kimberly Stewart, who was the chair of the Cruising with Friends car show that occurred last Friday. It was a tremendously successful event. It was really hot, but we did, in spite of the heat, have about 80 cars turn up, and a couple hundred folks enjoyed the downtown. And I'll tell you, I just enjoyed seeing the families out, the diverse group of community members, and everybody was smiling and having a good time, even though it was really hot. So I just wanted to mention that, and then also mention that the Sanford Backpack Program, who last school year sent almost 300,000 pounds of food out within the Sanford community, is doing its first fundraiser since COVID, and that's in partnership with McDougall Orchards. It's August 19th, and you can get tickets, VIP tickets to a orchard party. There's going to be live music, reserved seating, really fun food and snacks and special treats, and those tickets can be found through their social media sites, either for Pick Your Own at McDougall Orchards or Sanford Backpack Program. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan?
Just a couple more quick comments. Yeah, I did make it to the car show, and pretty good turnout. They had some really interesting vehicles there, quite a variety, and then several different food trucks, and Franny's Donuts was there as well. So great to see a good turnout, even though it was pretty toasty, but at least it wasn't raining. So, and I'll be pulling papers for another run since I'm up for re-election. So I'll be gathering signatures here shortly, so I'll be hitting up friends and family and the usual crowd, I guess. So thank you, everyone.
Fantastic. All right, thank you. Any other comments? Ann?
I didn't get a score update. Where are we at?
It is 2-1. There are 2 people on at the top of the 9th, and there are 2 of their people on. So if we can get one more out, they have made it through the first round of the playoffs.
Okay.
But it's like happening right now.
So we need to finish so you can run down there.
Well, I don't know if we'll make it, so
Okay.
I'm watching.
Okay, now we're talking the important stuff.
Two
How's the ball team doing?
balls, 2 strikes. A man on second and third. I'm sure Nate's watching too.
No comment.
No comment. So, and if I believe we have a neither. I shouldn't say anything. Wait, Nate, did we just win? No. They just put an X on the 9, the bottom of the 9th.
Well, as you're doing that, first of all,
Yeah.
Nate Hitchcock, I'd like to
they
thank
did.
you
They won.
for running again. And Jonathan Martel, I know you're going to be taking out papers, so I appreciate your running again. And Maura Hurley, I appreciate your running again. So it's exciting. So you'll see these people going around our community trying to get signatures. Is there anything you want on the future agenda? And also, please feel free to give me a call. I can always arrange stuff on that too. So anything that we're missing right now that you want on those agendas? All right. Meeting is adjourned at 8:35.